Would you speak to a little bit more about the demographics over in North Minneapolis, specifically 59A, the district that you represent?
So the demographics in North Minneapolis, in my district, I think we are probably the most demographically diverse district in the state of Minnesota, where I believe 38% is white, 36% is black, about 14% is Asian American, I would say Hmong, which I am, and then about 8 to 10% Latino, Latinx, and then the other are just mixed. And so I don't know if the math adds up, but the latest that I checked out the demographics, of my district, it's around that. And so I feel like, I have a unique perspective because, our district is so diverse that, you have to represent different communities and really try to do the best that, I can do for our district and for the state of Minnesota. And so having conversation like this and having just getting out there to door knock and talk to neighbors, I think that that's really important. And I have been doing that and I will continue to do so. And really just want to make sure that the policies that we have over at the Capitol really reflect the community that I live in.
Absolutely. I heard you talk a little bit about being visible. I think a lot of candidates and politicians can learn a great deal from you about that, right? So I think a lot of the times we come together and we elect these public officials, and they go off the state legislature, or some of them go off to D.C. if they get or if they get elected for a congressional district or something like that, and we don't really hear from them. We don't see them anymore, right? Until it's election time, and they come back and say, "Hey, I've been doing X, Y, and Z. You haven't seen me though, but this is what I've been kind of doing." So that's been my biggest struggle. Like once we elect you and get you into that office, make sure you're coming back and check in with people. Have town hall meetings. I know it's difficult right now because of COVID-19. I mean, but we have Zoom, we have Teams, we have Microsoft Teams, we have Facebook Lives. You can go live and give live updates about things. It's just being visible. I think that's very important. Just don't come around during election time. And I hear people that, say your name all the time. I know that you're visible. I know you're present in your community. So I really do. If I had a hat, I would take it off to you. So
I appreciate that too. And, I think for me is that I'm still trying to find more creative ways to be more engaged with my community too, where, oftentimes as elected officials, our time is very finite. And so whatever I could do to be out there in front of community members, whether that's, having my own form of town halls or joining community events, I want to do that. And so that's why I really appreciate this platform that you have and inviting me here to really have this discussion about what's going on. And to your point about elected officials, coming in around election time and then leaving and not being present, that's the same mindset that I had as a kid growing up. That's why I thought that, hey, I don't want to be involved in electoral politics. I just want to go into the foreign service, international relations, and just do the public service and not have to worry about just showing up for votes. But guess where I'm at, right? I'm elected official asking people for votes, and so I think that's so crucial that we as elected officials, after being elected, be present and in whatever platform that I can do to represent my community or to be a voice for them and to hear them. It's really needed. And, some of the issues that we're seeing today, you and I acknowledged at the beginning around gun violence. The other day there was a shooting outside of my house. And I feel like, right now it's more than ever we need to address this issue through, really looking at some of the trauma that's happening in our communities. And it's very unfortunate that, I'm in my fourth year, and in my first 3 years, every year I have experienced an officer-involved death in my district. And, that should not be the case for anyone, and especially on the north side where, it seems like, that's the new normal for a lot of folks. And, my community is hurting, our neighbors hurting, and just trying to figure out what can we do at the state level to provide support. And, bringing this up, it's hard, even though I'm not impacted, but just living around that gun violence.
Well, it happened in front of your house. I mean, you are impacted. I'm sure your kids play out in the front yard, and your kids probably go to the schools over in Minneapolis, so you are impacted. Right.
I mean, not directly, but just being there, the trauma is real for a lot of neighbors, and when you start having these conversations, it's hard. I still remember one conversation that I had when I first ran for office in 2016. I was talking to a Black mother who was on National Night Out, and I went and talked to her, and we started talking about some of the protests, I believe, because of the Philando Castile case and whatnot. And her son, I don't think he was older than 8 or 9. He started coming to her, and it was hitting her. He said, "Mom, stop it! You should not be having that conversation." And he was literally crying there. You know, for me as a candidate at that time, just looking at that, you know, I cannot imagine, you know, being in his shoes, you know, when you're 8 or 9 and you just don't even want your mom to have that conversation because you think that that's going to have a negative impact on her, you know, maybe
Put a target on her back.
right. And so that's, you know, that's the reality that we are living in, and, you know, that's unfortunate. And so that's why I just want to do, you know, what I can to help out my neighbors so that we don't have to live in fear for, you know, our skin color or whatnot.